This video is about how I use Notion AI to analyze a job post, then create a custom resume and cover letter based on detailed work history that I've also entered into Notion. This video covers why you need something like this if you're a job applicant or freelancer, how you prompt the AI to analyze the job description so that your response is on point, what's in the template, and how to set it up for greater accuracy and value for the task. So why do you need Notion AI for job applications today? Face it, businesses have been using automated applicant tracking systems, ATS, for decades. Now, with AI, they can screen and evaluate your submissions faster than ever and often without it ever seeing human eyes. If you don't get past the screening process, your skills, experience, and humanity never see the light of day. At the time of this video, there are already about 100 Notion templates related to resumes, most of which appear to focus on the style and format of static content. Some of the better ones at least include a database for project work. Then there's another 100 or so dedicated to tracking the drudgery of the application process. The approach I'm using here produces your resume content dynamically, selecting and wordsmithing the elements of your experience to specifically match the elements of the job description. Using that content, you produce your Word or PDF resume to submit to the job, and your progress through the interview process is tracked automatically. The value of this approach comes from using your work and your content to satisfy the employer's ATS, your ability to tweak the AI prompt to your satisfaction, high-quality results with minimal effort, and full ownership over the data and the entire process in your own Notion environment. So let's do a demo of the system so that you can see if it's right for you. Then I'll do another pass where I go into the weeds for what makes it work. You start by searching any job board you want and finding a post that you're interested in. Then you copy the job description and create a new page inside of the job post database. I'll do the same thing for the URL so that I can have that for reference later. At this point, I can open the AI and ask for help. It will give me a summary of the predefined commands that it's trained to perform. We're going to make each of these requests one after the other. So the first request is to research the job posting. It's going to create a series of documents inside the research database, all relating back to the job. Those documents include a progress document that the AI can use as a scratch pad, and so that it will know where it left off in the event that the AI crashes. A list of action words to maximize in the employer's applicant tracking system, and a list of skills, tools, and experience that the ATS wants to see. Go ahead and review these three lists before moving on to the next phase so that you can get a feel for how the post was processed. Next, we can ask the AI to produce a custom resume. The AI will choose the model on its own, but you may want to request a new resume more than once, manually choosing which model works best for you. In my own research, one of the Claude models works best because of the length of the job description as well as the processing instructions. Your mileage may vary. 3 things to bear in mind. First, don't just take the resume and run with it. You still have to verify that it didn't get anything wrong, such as dates, and that everything it says is actually true. For example, because I have multiple SQL databases under my belt, sometimes it'll throw in one that I don't actually use. Despite that, it's still about 95% accurate. Second, the AI's strength is distilling a broad set of experiences from your projects into bullet statements for your resume that relate to the job description. It's not as strong with matters of style or format, but if you show it an example for the style you want, it might be able to follow that. And third, I'm not spending much time on the resume it produces here because it's based on my own background and won't have meaning or context to you. I can tell you that the results that the AI produced were far better than what I had produced on my own, and most importantly, each one was automatically customized to the job in a way that would have been time prohibitive without it. Next, for applications that want it, or where you're reaching out directly to a recruiter or hiring manager, we can also ask the AI to generate a cover letter. Just like the resume, the cover will be optimized for the employer's ATS based on the job description. The only concern I've had with most covers is that they're way too long, but that's actually okay. We can use that as our starting point and customize by hand, or we can ask it to try again, limiting the cover to a few paragraphs or maybe 500 words just by adding that to the prompt. Lastly, assuming that you get to the interview phase, you can also ask the AI to help you prepare for an interview. The AI will read the job description again, looking for any ambiguities, areas of concern, or red flags. It will also highlight specific things that you can bring up to address potential gaps between items on the job and your actual experience. So that wraps up the overview. In the rest of this video, we're going to dive into the weeds of how the thing works and what you have to do on your side to have it work with your particular experience and skills. So what's inside the template? There are 3 key elements to this process. The first is the Notion equivalent of your resume. But rather than a document, we use related databases for your previous employers or clients, the projects you worked on, including your challenges and results, and the skills and tools that you used or acquired during those projects. It's a bit of work to set up the first time, but you'll also find that this level of detail lets you ace almost any interview for jobs where you're qualified because of the structure and the detail that you can access at your fingertips. The second element is the individual job postings. It doesn't matter whether they are from LinkedIn, Indeed, Dice, or any other job source. Whatever it is, you're going to copy it into a new page in Notion for storage, along with the URL where it came from. In addition to feeding this into Notion AI, it also becomes your tracking tool for applications, follow-up, and interviews. Finally, there's the resume agent that tells the AI the steps that it should take when analyzing the job description and how to match your experience to the job. These steps include identifying the list of action words from the job description that you need to use, identifying the skills and tools you need to demonstrate to rank well on their ATS, producing a sample resume, producing a cover letter, and optionally producing a list of questions that you can ask during the interview. Once you get a copy of the template onto your account, there's a couple things you need to do to set it up. The first one is making your resume agent page the instructions for the AI. So you'll click on Nosy, click on it again, set up instructions, use an existing page, and then you'll select your resume agent. However, there are some times when even though the page is completely visible, you won't be able to select it. That's a byproduct of Notion, and there is a workaround for that. If you need the workaround, you can go to your resume agent. Now, I've already selected it as my instruction page, but if it weren't selected yet, you can say Move to Private Pages, and at that point, you can go ahead and select it. You're also welcome to move it back to right here in the Common menu. Hopefully, by the time you get this, Notion will have fixed that issue. But if you do run into it, I just want to make sure you know how to get around it. Next, you'll go to your resume page. Go ahead and rename it. Personalize your information as is appropriate. And then we're going to start with your job history. There are 2 templates here. The default is where you are an employee. And the second is for self-employment, entrepreneurship, where you're taking on clients rather than being an employee. So we'll start with an employer. And for demo, I'm going to go ahead and use some of mine. Then, similarly to what you would put on a traditional resume, you put down the projects that you worked on. Unlike a traditional resume where you need to be very brief, in your Notion resume for the projects, you want to spell out in great detail what it is that you were working on. So for example, what I did may have been implementing an e-commerce platform, but what was the problem for which that was the solution? and what were the benefits to the client of that particular solution. And then go ahead and fill out that information for all of the projects for all of your employers. We're also going to specify any of the tools or technologies that we use for each project. When you start, none of the tools will be in there, so you're going to be creating them on the fly. If you have any external artifacts that are related to a particular project, you can link that in here, either by uploading documents or embedding external links. And you can do the same thing for the particular skills that were required in order for you to work on that particular project. And be sure and fill in all that information for each of the projects for each of your jobs. So let's go back to the list for job history. In the case where you're self-employed, the only difference is that you will deliberately select the self-employment template, fill in your company name, and primary details. And inside of this particular employer, you're going to list the individual clients that you had. Now you could start entering the individual projects for each client here, but I find it easier to just open up an individual client, and at that point you can treat it the same as an individual employer. At some point, when you're entering all of the tools that you've used for the various projects, they're going to start to accumulate. So you go to the Technologies table and you see the list of all of your tools. You're probably going to want to put these into some kind of functional grouping. When you create the functional groups, it will also show them to you up above so that for any functional group, you can see the list of the tools in that group that you've used. Finally, when you go to the Skills table, you'll see all the skills as well as which projects you use that particular skill. And here you have an opportunity to give more information about what that skill actually means. And if you have any certifications or credentials about it, you're welcome to put those links in here. Credly, for example. You'll notice that when we're looking at your Notion resume, it has the links for navigating your background, but it does not share the links to the rest of the job prospecting system. That's deliberate so that if you only wanted to share this page publicly, your viewers would be able to see all of your background, your history, projects, technology, skills, but they wouldn't see any of the higher level information about your job prospecting. And the databases are segmented appropriately to allow that sharing with no additional work. So to get back to the job prospecting page, we'll go to here. And at this point, it makes sense to take a look at the quality checks. Here, there are a series of views to make sure that as you are filling out all of this information, you don't have any missing information or missing links regarding all of the data that you've entered. You can try and enter it as methodically as you want, but in my own case, I found that I remembered bits and pieces as I went, and this is a way to make sure that there's no holes. The individual views here are described up above, and so here I see that all of my projects are tied to at least one employer. I've listed a series of skills, but I have yet to define what some of these skills are, and if there are particular badges or links, I haven't entered those. If there are skills that I entered but are not yet associated with projects, those would be here. This is a way where when you say there's a skill you have, you can justify that skill by showing where it was used. If there's any jobs that have missing data, those are shown here. For example, this one's missing a URL, and there's no direct projects for this particular employer, which is my self-employment company. And lastly, tools that might be missing any data. For example, Google Analytics, that has a specific URL, as do all of these other tools. When you're initially getting started with this, I recommend that you take a look at your existing resume and just translate the information into these particular tables, or you may want to look at your profile on LinkedIn if that has more information than a typical resume, and put that information in here. It is a bit more work to set up your job history in this fashion. It's also what enables AI to understand your job history, experience, the tools, the skills, and the projects that you've worked on in a way that enable the AI to extract from your history and produce a highly customized resume that increases your chances of getting past the applicant tracking system for any employer. My hope is that if you are currently looking for a job, this will be a huge asset to you, making you more successful in your job hunt. And in the event that you're looking for any help in your own Notion projects, you can find me at PrimaryGoals.com.